Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have a great guest on. And because this is a topic that, what, most people when they start a business, they don't really get into business because they want to master or they just love the payroll process of their business. So it's always wise to have people who understand it because if you do it wrong, there could be a lot of problems that you're going to face if you do it wrong. So you want to work with someone who knows what they're doing, which is why we have a great guest on, Charles Reed, the who will talk about his business, and his business is, payroll and getting it right. So welcome to the show, Charles.
Daryl, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Now, before we jump into, your business, Get Payroll, what was your background before starting that business?
Well, I grew up in Iowa, out in the Midwest. Went to school there. After high school, I joined the Marine Corps. Spent 4 years in service, 2 years overseas, Vietnam veteran. Came back, met my wife, married her. She had 5 kids when I married her. I claim insanity, uh, but we were married for 45 years before she passed, so it worked. Went to school, got my degrees, my MBA, my CPA. Uh, Worked in major industries, things like Texas Instruments and J.C. Penney's and others. And then here, about 30 years ago, decided I was never going to run a major corporation because I didn't have the political skills. I was unwilling to stab people in the back and throw them off the ladder. So I figured if I was going to run a company, I needed to start my own. So I did. We started 30 years ago, the wife and I together. Um, and then here, about 15 years ago, I brought in a partner and I sold him the accounting practice about 7, 8 years ago and kept the payroll because I like payroll. I like doing it. And I like the clients and I like the aspects of it. And I'd gotten bored of just pure accounting. And so that's where we're at. And we're having a good time. We're in 47 states currently. We can do all 50. It's just we don't have anybody in 3 of them at the moment. Uh, I've written a book recently on payroll. So having a good time.
Awesome, awesome. Well, first, thank you for your service. Greatly appreciate that. And second, wow. I think, people don't often realize like, what an amazing story it is to have a business that's been open and still running for 30 plus years, especially with the number of businesses that are closing now. Like that's an amazing thing.
It sometimes when I think about it, I'm just flabbergasted that 30 years later, still in business. It amazes me some days.
It's one of those things I think that sometimes where people hear about these stories about, I guess these unicorn companies that are worth billions, or where I think people overlook the, just the simple victory that's just, hey, this business is still open. Like it's not a guarantee that your business is supposed to survive. So you've
Yeah.
obviously been doing something right.
Yeah, well, there's a few things right and a lot of luck, I think, but we work at it every day. Uh, I don't work as hard as I used to. When I first started, it was 80-hour weeks, and that's just uh, how it goes. I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and somebody in there I was presenting, and they asked me, "Well, what about work-life balance?" And I said, "For an entrepreneur, there is no such thing. It's work. And if your family can't handle it, you're going to have a problem. So you've got to have a wife and kids that understand that the house, the food, the clothes on the back comes from work. So work comes first, okay? And my wife did because we started the business together, and the kids were grown by then. But for 20 years, it was 80 hours a week. That's how you make a business grow. You work at it.
Awesome, awesome. Now, another thing you mentioned is, you really enjoy, you like the payroll part. So what made you fall in love with, the payroll? Because that's not something you commonly hear. I mean, I'm a CPA myself, and I don't usually hear CPAs say that.
Well, and you're right. A lot of CPAs don't like payroll, don't want to do payroll, which is great for me. We have a lot of CPAs that send us their clients because they don't want the minutia of it. But to me, it's you're dealing with the government on a regular basis. You have a whole set of rules. It's kind of like tax. And you learn to manipulate the rules and the people and so on. And to me, it's just fun. I mean, we're helping people, we're paying people. Whenever I used to show up with a payroll in hand to deliver it, everybody was glad to see me. One day I was delivering a payroll over in Fort Worth. I'm in Dallas for a roofing company. They'd called it in late and they had to get it that day. So I got it done that afternoon and drove over and gave it to them. And there's 30 Mexicans standing in the parking lot, all with roofing knives on their belt, waiting for their checks. They were ecstatic to see me, as was the boss.
It's one of those things where I think where people sometimes when you're doing taxes, I've heard, business owners refer to it as the necessary evil. But when it comes down to payroll, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about the people who do their payroll, because they know that if this payroll isn't done, my employees are not going to be happy with me.
Absolutely. Unless you screw it up, and then they get a little hostile. But the payroll people are well loved by the employees and by the bosses because you're keeping the employees happy. So, and you're keeping the IRS off their case. And that's the important thing for employers is our specialty is compliance. I mean, there's a lot of payroll providers out there that do a reasonably good job of cutting checks. Okay. I mean, they do. But the IRS makes millions of mistakes a year. You have 100,000 people, many of which are not fully trained. Many have been there too long and need to retire, dealing in many cases with old technology, some of which goes back to the 1960s.
Wow.
And things happen. And the programming is obsolete in many cases, and there's problems. So a lot of the things that happen to people are IRS mistakes. And if you don't know how to fix them, and most of our clients, most of our competitors, if you go to them and say, hey, the IRS sent me this notice, they say, well, go talk to your CPA. Well, if your CPA really understood payroll, he'd be doing it for you. So you're going to pay him to research and solve a problem that he doesn't really want to do.
Wow.
Instead, we include full compliance. We handle all those problems with the IRS. We take a power of attorney, a 2848 limited power of attorney with every client. And we handle that as part of the service fee that we already charge. That's very competitive to start with. So we give a great deal more to our clients than our competitors do. We're basically, besides payroll, we're payroll insurance. We guarantee it's right. And if there's a problem, we fix it.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that, there are a lot of different payroll solutions out there where people can use a technology or something like that.
Absolutely.
Have you had cases where, someone was using a payroll technology, but they ran into an issue and then they had to come to you to try to get help because the technology wouldn't solve that issue?
All the time. We have several right now we're loading on because they got to this point in the year and realized, oh God, I have to do W-2s. Oh shit. I'm not, what do I do? They call Charles. So we get that every year. We get some of those that have limped through the year and all of a sudden realize I can't do year end. It's not going to work. I need help. And we get others that have tried to do it themselves and they get a notice from the IRS saying, you owe $30,000. And if you don't send us a check today, we're going to come padlock the business and put you in jail.
Oh, wow.
At least that's what they think the letter says. Okay. And there's, I found this, my wife used to get upset when we'd get a certified letter, a copy from the IRS. And I said, no, don't worry about it. There's nothing like a certified letter from the IRS to bring clients that you haven't been able to get a hold of out of the woodwork. Okay. As you know, as a CPA, they get that letter. First thing they do, get on the horn to you. I got this letter. Well, let me look at it.
Yeah, I can definitely say that definitely comes up. And I guess, when it comes down to anything related to the IRS, or even sometimes with some of our clients, when it comes down to like their relationship with their bank, where they get a letter or some notice, when they don't know what to do with it, they're like, this must be serious. Let me call Terrell.
Yeah. And we've gotten, particularly with the PPP this year, we've gotten lots of requests for documents.
So how has that been going? I mean, with all the, I guess you say or I guess you say, what do they call them? What, temporary rulings around, hey, this is what the form is going to look like. Then they came out with a new part. How's that been for you guys?
Well, obviously, it's been a nightmare because they were basically changing it twice a week for months, because the Congress would, obviously acted in haste, and haste makes waste, and unintended consequences, and on and on and on. And we just worked through it. Told our clients, okay, we've got you your money. Now just wait. It'll settle down. You now have 24 weeks to make enough payroll to cover it. Just take your time, pay your payroll, pay your bills, let the things work out. And only in the last few weeks, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, have we really started to get the closing them to get them forgiven. And that's beginning to happen with all of them. A lot of them started hitting the 24 weeks in mid to late October. So
Gotcha.
that's now we're getting the forgiveness in place, and the forms are pretty well set. And it's not a big deal. And if you kept your employees or paid them working from home, 24 weeks you're free and clear. It's real easy.
Okay, gotcha. Now, I guess have any of the I guess they came out with the S form or the simplified version of the form. I guess has that caused any, I guess, clients of yours to have any concern or worry or like, hey, what do we do with this? Or
No, we have to step them through the forms, but that's, we do that with with IRS forms. These are SBA forms, but we do it with forms as you know, the forms change all the time, and you keep up with it, and the instructions are usually pretty good, particularly after they've been through 30 revisions already this year. So it's a matter of being a CPA and being a nitpicker and just stepping through everything and checking every box and dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and it goes through.
Mhm.
So
Awesome.
that's what we're good at, right?
Yep, absolutely. So through your 30 years in this business, I mean, I guess at this point, like, how big is the firm as far as the number of employees?
Well, we've got over a dozen employees. We're several million dollars a year in revenue. That's revenue to us, not including, we move hundreds of millions of dollars, of course, in
Gotcha.
payroll money.
Mhm.
But that's we don't get to keep that.
So what
It's
is
going
that?
either to the employees. Yeah, I wish I got to keep it all. If so, you'd be talking to me from my island in the Bahamas. But no, we're doing well. We're not huge, but we're a national firm. We may be one of the smaller national firms. We got into the web, in the early 2000s with a discount payroll service and spread out. And that's what really got us into a lot of states. And we had to learn all the states and how to handle them and adapt to them and file for them and so on. And, we've worked with the states over the years for electronic filing and electronic child support and all the changes in technology. We keep up with it. We got a very, very good staff.
Mhm.
I picked up a guy that's my Chris Boyce, who's my operations manager. He'd been with Paychex for 10 years. He's been with me now for 7 or 8, and he makes my life easy. And then we've got good CSRs, a good accountant, a good marketing department, and we're, like I said, we're having fun. We take care of our clients. One of the things, clients that can always talk to me, there's another difference between us and our competitors. One day, just as a lark, I called ADP and said, "Can I talk to the president?" And the girl answering the phone said, "President of what?" And I said, "Of ADP." And she explained that he didn't have a phone that she could connect to. And I
Wow.
said, "Well, he doesn't talk to clients." And she says, "I don't think so." Come on, people. These are your clients. This is your living. This is your livelihood. And you won't talk to them? Give me a break. No, any client can call me, and if they can't get an answer from my staff, all they have to do is say, "Let me talk to Charles." I'll pick up the phone and talk to them.
Mhm.
Why not? They're how I make my living. I'm very happy to have them. They're very important to me. They're not numbers. They're real people and important. I love my clients. Most of them.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask is, throughout your 30 years, I mean, with you, being there from, developing that great relationship with your clients and having that rapport with them, over the years as you've grown and brought new people on, how did you impress upon them like, hey, here's the culture and we need to take care of these people so that they, join that culture and, not be so internal focused on just, get payroll, but they're actually focused on the clients?
Well, it comes from the top as far as I'm concerned. And I always bend over backwards for my clients, whatever it takes to make them happy. I don't care if we lose money on that payroll or that month's payroll or that year's payroll, but it makes the client happy, I'm happy. I mean, we have clients that have been with us for 30 years.
Wow.
Okay. These are friends now, I've been to weddings and funerals and everything else for my clients. Okay. Because, I've been in their pocketbook, some of them for 30 years. I'm in their wallet every 2 weeks or every week, moving their money. Okay. I pay their employees. We're friends over this kind of time period. And I bend over backwards and it's customer service first. The customer's right until you fire them. I mean, we've gotten rid of a few over the years because there's always a few, but not many. And we like our clients. We take care of them. And it comes from the top down. If I catch somebody not taking care of a client, they're gone. I won't put up with it. These people pay us, which allows me to pay my employees. They've got to understand these clients are their livelihood too. That's why they get paid. Without clients, they don't have a job.
Yeah.
So treat them like they're putting food on your table, because they are. They're taking care of you, your wife, your kids, your house, your car. They're taking care of all that for you. So treat them like they're important. An old phrase that I learned from George Washington Crane, who was a doctor and a lawyer and a columnist for many years. And he said, to get along with people, if you'll treat them like tattooed on their chest, it says, I am important, you'll get along. You treat them like they're important, because they are. If nothing else, in their mind, they're important. And if you treat them that way, you'll get along fine with them. So treat them like they're important because they think they are. And for me, they are important.
Awesome. Awesome. So now, with such a great company, I mean, a legacy of, just knowing and being able to provide quality services to your clients, where can people find you online or on social media? Like, how can they get in touch with your company?
Okay. Well, first, there's my book. Let's see if we can get it on camera. The Payroll Book, a guide for small business and entrepreneurs. It's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. They can find us at www.getpayroll.com. It's on the background. The book is at thepayrollbook.com. The phone number is real simple, 972-353-0000. The only good thing Verizon ever did for me. So that's how they can find me. If they've got a problem, a payroll problem, call. If my staff can't solve it, they'll kick it up to me and I probably can solve it. If I can't, we'll talk about it. If I have to go do research and so on, I'll talk about a fee, but if I can just solve it off the cuff, man, I'll solve it. I like people. I'm a problem solver. So, it's kind of fun for me to people call and say, Charles, I got this problem. Okay, let's solve it. I like to do that.
Awesome. Awesome. So what was it? Quick question on the book. What was it like writing the book?
Well, it was 2 years. It was taking 30 years of experience and distilling it down to 85,000 words. It went through a number of revisions. We started off with a certain concept and we tweaked it and we tweaked it and we tweaked it. And then we wrote it. I wrote it. And then Wiley is the publisher, the major publishing house. They picked it up. So they did a re-edit and a copy editing and so on and so forth. And that took another 6 months. and then we had to argue about the artwork and everything else. But it came out in August. It's doing well. As I said, it's on Amazon. It's available either paper, Kindle, Barnes and Nobles, other fine bookstores, or online from us. So it was kind of a labor of love. It allowed me to really take my experience and lay it out and think about what entrepreneurs and small businesses needed to know. This isn't written for TI or Pennies or General Motors. It's written for 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 person firms.
Gotcha.
95% of all businesses are less than 50 employees.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's written for them. It's written for the majority of businesses. If you want to try and do it yourself, I don't recommend that, but a lot of people still do. The book will give you a lot of tips and a lot of insight. There's a lot of horror stories and there are things not to do, and how to deal with the IRS, how to deal with employees, how to write a handbook, what entity you ought to choose as a startup for payroll purposes, who's an employee, who's not, 1099ers, how to handle them, what really makes for an independent contractor, what's overtime, what's Chinese overtime, on and on and on. It's 30 years of experience. It's 30 years of problems and questions and so on. My clients have got to me and I've said, here they are. So for $29.95, I think they got it down to $22.95 at the moment on Amazon. You get 30 years of my experience. Please enjoy.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, one last question that I like to ask every guest that comes on is, when you think about, your journey of where you've been, what's going on, where you are right now in your firm, and, what's 2 lessons that you would share with other business owners?
Well, one lesson I learned long before I even started this business was outsource payroll. It's just not worth the effort to try and do it in-house, keep up with software, equipment, people, the law, 15,000 taxing authorities, and all the changes that happen every year. Okay. It's not worth it. And if you're not going to, the second piece of advice, when you get a penalty, fight it. Fight it tooth and nail. You get one for $7, just pay it. It's not worth writing the letter. But you get one for $500 or $1,000, fight it. They can't penalize you for a simple mistake, though they'll try. And many times it's not your problem. It's somebody else's fault. And if it's the IRS's fault, they shouldn't penalize you. So fight it, fight it, fight it. It's a whole series of, no, I'm not going to abate it, followed by a single yes. And when you get that yes, say thank you and walk away.
Awesome. Well, Charles, thank you so much for coming on the Business Talk Library. Tell us a little bit about your story, your business, and then we'll also include in the link so people can find the book and they can find your website and get in touch with you if they have payroll questions and they need payroll services.
Terrell, it's been my pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.